Unaware of my 20 million fortune, my girlfriend left me for another man. 5 years later, she begged for a job at my company, but security carried her out as I watched with a cold smile. Okay, so this is hard to write, like really hard. My chest feels tight just thinking about it. It's been eating at me for years, a knot in my gut that refuses to unravel. I don't even know where to start, but here goes. It all started back in Seattle. Vanessa and I were like the perfect couple. At least that's what everyone thought, what we projected. We were young, ambitious, supposedly in love, or so I believed. We met at that quirky little coffee shop on Pike Street. Cliché, I know, but it felt real at the time. Rain lashed against the window panes, and the aroma of roasted beans filled the air. We'd spend hours talking, our knees bumping under the tiny table, building castles in the clouds, airy, fragile structures built on hopes and dreams. I was always the techie one, obsessed with coding and building things. My fingers itched to create, to bring ideas to life in the digital world. I had this idea for a startup, something revolutionary. I truly believed it. It was more than just an idea. It was a burning passion, a vision that consumed me. Vanessa seemed genuinely excited about it too, in the beginning. At least she feigned it well. We'd stay up late, me hammering away at the keyboard, the click-clack a constant rhythm in our small apartment. She'd bring me lukewarm coffee and stale snacks, her touch lingering on my shoulder a little too long, brainstorming names and logos, offering suggestions that felt more performative than insightful. It felt like we were a team, building our empire together, a shared dream shimmering in the distance. Or so I thought. We had this tiny, cramped apartment overlooking Puget Sound. Remember those sunsets? The sky ablaze with fiery hues of orange and pink, reflecting in the choppy water. God, they were beautiful. We'd sit on the fire escape, huddled together against the evening chill, sharing a cheap bottle of wine, the kind that left a metallic tang on your tongue. We'd talk about how we'd be millionaires one day, our voices hushed with a mixture of excitement and disbelief. I'd tell her about my vision for the company, how it would change the world, the words tumbling out in a rush of enthusiasm. I'd gesture with my hands, sketching diagrams in the air, my eyes shining with conviction. She'd smile, a tight, almost strained smile, and squeeze my hand, her touch lacking warmth. She'd tell me she knew I could do it, the words hollow, devoid of genuine belief. Looking back, maybe I was naive, blinded by love, or maybe by the romantic glow of the sunset. Maybe I just wanted to believe it so badly that I ignored the warning signs. See, Vanessa, she always had a thing for the finer things in life. Nothing outrageously extravagant, but she definitely appreciated nice clothes, the soft caress of cashmere, the gleam of expensive jewelry, fancy restaurants with starched white tablecloths and hushed conversations. You know, the kind of places where the waiters look down their noses at you if you ordered the cheapest bottle of wine. She worked in marketing, a world of polished surfaces and carefully curated images, so she was always surrounded by people who seemed to have it all. People who effortlessly exuded an aura of success and affluence, and while she never explicitly said it, the words unspoken hung heavy in the air. I could feel the pressure for me to be more successful, more like the guys she worked with, the ones driving sleek BMWs and taking weekend trips to Napa Valley, their Instagram feeds filled with perfectly staged photos of overflowing wine glasses and Michelin-starred meals. She'd drop hints, little comments here and there, like pebbles tossed into a still pond, creating ripples of discontent. Like when we walked past a Tiffany's store, she'd pause a little too long, her breath catching in her throat, admiring the diamonds sparkling under the bright lights. Her fingers would trace the outline of the display case, a wistful expression on her face. Or how she'd talk about her friend's husband, the investment banker, who just got a huge promotion and a bonus that could probably pay off our student loans 10 times over. She'd recount their lavish vacations to the Maldives, their newly renovated penthouse apartment, the casual mention of a beer kin bag purchased on a whim, It wasn't malicious, not at first. It was subtle, insidious, like a slow drip of poison. But it started chipping away at me, made me question if my startup dream was just a pipe dream. A childish fantasy, like she'd later call it, her voice dripping with disdain. "Chris," she'd say, her voice laced with concern, "don't you think you should get a real job, something stable, something with a regular paycheck? I just want security, a future we can plan for." Her hand would rest on mine, but the gesture felt more like a restraint than a comfort. A part of me, a growing, gnawing part, felt like what she really wanted wasn't security, but the lifestyle that came with it. The fancy dinners, the designer bags, the Instagram-worthy vacations. The validation that came with being arm in arm with a man who could provide those things. And I, with my ramen-fueled coding nights and my risky, uncertain startup, just wasn't cutting it. I was a rough draft, a work in progress, while she craved the finished product, the polished, gleaming version of success. The tension started to build, thick and suffocating, like the humid Seattle air before a summer storm. My startup was consuming me, every waking moment dedicated to lines of code and endless meetings with potential investors. Most days, I barely slept, fueled by caffeine and the desperate hope that this would all pay off, that I could build the future Vanessa and I talked about, the one she seemed to be losing faith in. But the money wasn't coming in yet, not the kind of money she envisioned, the kind that translated into tangible symbols of success, the kind that bought designer handbags and first-class plane tickets. She started comparing me to other men, subtly at first, little jabs disguised as casual observations. "Did you hear about Mark's promotion?" she'd ask, twirling a strand of hair around her finger. "He's taking Sarah to Paris next month. Isn't that romantic?" Or, "John just bought a new Tesla. It's electric blue, so sleek." Each comment was a tiny pinprick, deflating my already fragile ego. I could see the disappointment in her eyes, the way her smile didn't quite reach them. It felt like I was constantly falling short, failing to meet some invisible standard she'd set. The need for reassurance became a constant refrain, a desperate plea for validation masked as playful teasing. "When are we going to be able to afford a place like that?" she'd murmur, her voice tight with longing, as we walked past a gleaming new condo building downtown. Or, "Maybe one day you'll be able to surprise me with a little something sparkly," she'd say, her eyes lingering on a jewelry store window, the diamonds winking in the afternoon sun. Each time, my stomach would clench, a knot of guilt and frustration tightening in my chest. I wanted to give her those things, to shower her with all the luxury she desired, but I was pouring every penny, every ounce of energy into my startup. I truly believed it was our ticket to a better future, a future where we wouldn't have to worry about money, a future where I could finally give her everything she wanted. But she wasn't seeing it, not then. All she saw was the present, the struggle, the lack of immediate gratification. And then there were the other men. The ones who already had the things she craved. The ones who could offer her the instant gratification she seemed to desperately need. I'd see the way she lit up when they were around, her laughter a little too bright, her touch a little too lingering. The way she'd subtly flirt, a toss of her hair, a playful touch on the arm, a glance that lingered just a second too long. It was like a slow, agonizing burn, watching her attention drift, her desire directed elsewhere. I tried to ignore it, to tell myself I was being paranoid, but the insecurity gnawed at me, a constant, unsettling presence. There was this one guy, Tom, a lawyer, slicked back hair, expensive suits, the kind of guy who probably owned a yacht and summered in the Hamptons. He'd always be around, showing up at parties, his arm casually draped around Vanessa's waist, his eyes lingering on her a little too long. I remember one particular evening we were at a rooftop bar overlooking the city, the lights twinkling like a scattered handful of diamonds. Tom was there, of course, holding court, regaling everyone with stories of his latest legal victory. Vanessa captivated, her eyes shining with admiration, her laughter echoing a little too loudly in the night air. I felt like a ghost, invisible in my own relationship, watching her slip away, drawn to the bright, seductive glow of someone else's success. My heart pounded in my chest, a dull ache spreading through my limbs. I wanted to grab her hand, to pull her close, to remind her that we were supposed to be building our own empire, our own success story. But the words caught in my throat, choked by the growing realization that she might not want that anymore, not with me. The air crackled with unspoken tension, the city lights blurring through the film of unshed tears in my eyes. I knew, deep down, that something was shifting, something fundamental was breaking between us. And I had a sinking feeling that I couldn't fix it, no matter how many lines of code I wrote, no matter how many hours I poured into my startup. It was a Tuesday. I remember it so clearly. The kind of crisp, clear Seattle day that makes the city sparkle. I'd been up all night, hunched over my laptop, finally cracking a particularly nasty coding problem. I was exhausted, running on fumes and stale coffee, but exhilarated. This was it, I thought. This was the breakthrough I'd been waiting for, the one that would finally get my startup off the ground. I couldn't wait to tell Vanessa. I pictured her face, the way her eyes would light up, the way she'd finally see that my pipe dream was actually becoming a reality. I walked into our apartment, the scent of burnt toast hanging heavy in the air. Vanessa was sitting at the kitchen table, dressed impeccably in a power suit, her phone clutched in her hand. She barely looked up when I walked in, her expression tight, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Morning," I mumbled, my voice raspy from lack of sleep. I finally figured it out. The algorithm? It's working! I held my breath, waiting for her reaction, the shared excitement we used to have. But it never came. Instead, she sighed, a long, drawn-out sound that seemed to drain the air from the room. "Chris," she said, her voice cold, devoid of any warmth. "We need to talk." My stomach dropped. I knew what was coming. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash, the inevitable collision looming, and yet I was powerless to stop it. I sat down across from her, the burnt toast forgotten, the smell of coffee suddenly nauseating. The silence stretched, each tick of the clock amplifying the dread that coiled in my gut. This isn't working anymore," she finally said, the words hanging in the air like a death sentence. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. "I can't do this anymore, Chris. Waiting, this uncertainty." She gestured vaguely around our cramped apartment, her nose wrinkled in distaste. "I need more than this. I deserve more than this." "But the startup," I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. "It's finally taking off. Things are going to change, I promise." She laughed, a short, sharp sound that felt like a slap in the face. "Your startup? Chris, it's a pipe dream. It's never going to be anything. You're wasting your time, and you're wasting mine." Her words were like shards of glass, piercing my skin, lodging deep in my heart. "But we had plans," I pleaded, my voice cracking. "We talked about this, about building a future together. The sunsets, the whispered dreams on the fire escape, they flashed before my eyes, taunting me with the ghost of what we once had." "I can't build a future on empty promises and ramen noodles, Chris," she snapped, her voice dripping with disdain. "I need stability. I need someone who can provide for me, someone who's going places." And then she said the words that would haunt me for years to come. "Tom asked me to move in with him. He has a penthouse downtown, overlooking the Space Needle. He can give me the life I want, the life I deserve." She looked at me then, a flicker of something that might have been pity in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Chris. I can't wait for you anymore." I sat there, numb, the words echoing in my ears, the weight of them crushing me. The burnt toast, the stale coffee, the cramped apartment, the years of struggle and sacrifice. It all suddenly felt meaningless. She was leaving me for a penthouse, for a life of luxury, for a man who could give her everything I couldn't. The humiliation burned, and searing, a brand on my soul. My carefully constructed world crumbled around me, leaving me standing amidst the ruins, alone and broken. I watched her pack a small suitcase, her movements precise, efficient, as if she couldn't wait to escape. She didn't look back as she walked out the door. the click of the latch echoing in the sudden, suffocating silence. The scent of her perfume lingered in the air, a cruel reminder of what I had lost. I sank to the floor, the weight of her words pressing down on me, suffocating me. My pipe dream, my passion, my future, it all felt like a joke, a cruel, cosmic punchline. I was a failure. She had made sure I knew it. The apartment felt colder, emptier than it ever had before. I sat there on the floor for God knows how long, the remnants of our life together scattered around me like debris after a storm. The burnt toast, the half-empty coffee cups, the crumpled sketches of app designs, they were all mocking me, whispering reminders of my failure. Her words echoed in my head, a vicious loop on repeat. Pipe dream, wasting your time, can't wait for you anymore. Each repetition was a fresh stab wound, twisting deeper into the raw, exposed flesh of my heart. At first, it was just numbness. A hollow ache in my chest, a void where my heart used to be. I couldn't process it, couldn't grasp the reality of her being gone, of her choosing him over me, over us. Over the future we had planned, the one I was working so hard to build. Then the anger came, a hot, burning rage that surged through my veins, chasing away the numbness. It was a primal, visceral reaction, a furious roar against the injustice of it all. How dare she? How dare she dismiss my dreams, my passion as a pipe dream? How dare she throw away everything we had for a penthouse and a man who probably wore socks with loafers? The fury pulsed through me, a physical force that made my hands clench into fists, my jaw tighten. I wanted to scream, to break something, to lash out at the world that had suddenly turned so cruel. And then, beneath the anger, the heartbreak surfaced, a tidal wave of grief that threatened to drown me. It was a deep, aching sorrow, a profound sense of loss that went beyond the loss of a relationship. It was the loss of a future, of shared dreams, of the person I thought she was. The tears came then, hot and stinging, blurring my vision. I didn't try to stop them. I let them flow, a torrent of raw, unfiltered emotion. I cried for the lost love, for the shattered dreams, for the humiliation, for the sheer agonizing unfairness of it all. I don't know how long I stayed there, curled up on the floor, a broken mess of a man. Hours, maybe. The sun set, painting the sky in the same fiery hues we used to watch together from the fire escape. But the beauty was lost on me, replaced by a bitter irony that twisted in my gut. The world kept turning, oblivious to my pain, to the gaping hole that had been ripped in my life. But somewhere in the depths of that despair, a flicker of something else ignited, a spark of defiance, a burning ember of determination. Her words, meant to crush me, to diminish me, instead became fuel. They ignited a fire in my belly, a fierce resolve to prove her wrong, to show her, to show the world, that my pipe dream was more than just a fantasy, that I wasn't a failure, that I was capable of achieving great things, even without her. I slowly pulled myself up, the anger and heartbreak now mingled with a newfound sense of purpose. I wiped away the tears, the remnants of my grief replaced by a steely glint of determination in my eyes. I looked around the apartment, at the scattered remnants of our life together, and instead of seeing symbols of failure, I saw a blank canvas, a fresh start, a chance to rewrite my story, to build the future I envisioned, not for her, but for myself. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my laptop, the glow of the screen illuminating my face, my fingers flying across the keyboard. I channeled all the pain, all the anger, all the heartbreak into my work. Line after line of code, each one a small act of rebellion, a defiant roar against the doubts and the dismissals. I poured every ounce of energy, every shred of my being into my startup. It was no longer just a dream, it was a mission. A testament to my resilience, my determination, my unwavering belief in myself. I would make something of myself, I vowed. I-bombs would succeed, no matter the cost. I would prove Vanessa and everyone else who ever doubted me wrong. This wasn't just about the startup anymore. It was about reclaiming my self-worth, about rebuilding my life from the ashes of her rejection. It was about revenge. The next few years were a blur. A relentless, exhausting grind of coding, meetings, setbacks, and near misses. Ramen noodles and instant coffee became my staple diet. Sleep was a luxury I rarely afforded myself. My apartment, once a shared space filled with the ghost of Vanessa's presence, became a functional workspace, littered with takeout containers and empty energy drink cans. The sunsets over Puget Sound, once a source of shared dreams, now mocked me with their beauty, a constant reminder of what I'd lost. My friends and family, bless their hearts, tried to be supportive, but I could see the doubt in their eyes. The concerned frowns, the hesitant questions about getting a real job, the subtle suggestions that maybe it was time to move on, to give up on this crazy dream. It was like a chorus of Vanessa's voice, echoing her doubts, her criticisms, her lack of faith. It chipped away at me, adding to the pressure, the weight of expectation, the crushing need to prove them all wrong. I became a hermit, isolating myself from everyone, burying myself in my work. My social life withered and died, replaced by endless nights bathed in the cold glow of my laptop screen. Loneliness became a constant companion, a shadow that clung to me, whispering doubts in my ear. There were times I almost gave up, times when the exhaustion was so overwhelming, the pressure so intense, that I wanted to throw my laptop out the window and crawl into bed, never to emerge. Times when I questioned if it was all worth it. This relentless pursuit of a dream that seemed to be slipping further and further away. But then I would remember Vanessa's words, her condescending laughter, her dismissive tone. Pipe dream. The words would sting, a fresh wound, and the anger would flare, reigniting the fire in my belly, pushing me forward. I wouldn't let her win. I wouldn't let her have the satisfaction of seeing me fail. Then, slowly, things started to change. A small investment here, a positive meeting there, a flicker of interest from a bigger investor. The code started working, the algorithms humming, the vision finally taking shape. The long nights, the sacrifices, the relentless grind, it was starting to pay off. The startup gained traction, slowly at first, then with a gathering momentum that took me by surprise. We secured more funding, hired a small team, moved into a proper office space. The ramen noodles were replaced by catered lunches, the instant coffee by artisanal brews. The exhaustion remained, but it was now tempered by a growing sense of accomplishment, a quiet satisfaction that I was finally proving everyone wrong. 5 years. 5 years since Vanessa walked out that door, leaving me with nothing but a broken heart and a burning desire for revenge. 5 years of blood, sweat, and tears. 5 years of relentless dedication, unwavering focus, and a refusal to give up. And now here I am. My pipe dream is now a multi-million-dollar company. 20 million to be exact. I still can't quite believe it myself. It's surreal, like a dream I'm afraid to wake up from. I could buy a dozen penthouses overlooking the Space Needle if I wanted to. I could buy a fleet of electric blue Teslas. I could drown myself in cashmere and diamonds. I could have everything Vanessa ever wanted, and more. But I haven't told anyone, not my friends, not my family, not even my team. The success, the money, it's my secret. My own private vindication. A silent fuck you to Vanessa and everyone who ever doubted me. I drive the same beat-up Honda Civic I had back then, live in a modest apartment, wear the same worn-out jeans and hoodies. I blend in, a ghost in my own success story. No one would ever suspect that the quiet, unassuming guy in the corner is the mastermind behind a multi-million-dollar tech empire. And yet, despite the success, despite the vindication, there's a hollowness inside me, a quiet ache that lingers, a constant reminder of the cost of this victory. The years of isolation, the strained relationships, the sacrifices made. Was it all worth it? Did I become so consumed by the desire to prove Vanessa wrong that I lost sight of everything else? Did I trade my happiness for revenge? The questions haunt me. whispering doubts in the quiet moments, the ones I spend alone, staring out at the city lights, the same city lights that once held so much promise, so much hope. There's a part of me, a small, quiet part, that wonders if I should have just moved on, if I should have let go of the anger, the hurt, the need for revenge, if I should have focused on healing, on building a life filled with genuine connection, with love, with joy. But then I remember Vanessa's face, the smug satisfaction in her eyes as she walked out that door, and the anger flares again, pushing away the doubt, the regret, the lingering sadness. Maybe I'm not over it. Maybe I'll never be over it. Maybe this silent victory, this private vindication, is all I have left. And maybe, just maybe, it's enough. For now. The silence in my office is deafening. It's a beautiful office, sleek and modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offer a breathtaking view of the city. The kind of office Vanessa would have drooled over. Ironic, isn't it? I can afford anything now, anything she ever dreamed of, but the things I craved most, the shared dreams, the genuine connection, the simple joy of building a future together, those are the things I can never buy back. They're gone, lost somewhere in the wreckage of our past. I run a hand through my hair, the exhaustion settling deep in my bones. It's been a long 5 years, a lifetime, really. So much has changed, yet so much remains the same. I look out at the cityscape, the skyscrapers gleaming under the afternoon sun, and I think about all the sacrifices I've made to get here. The sleepless nights, the missed birthdays, the strained relationships, the loneliness. It's a heavy price to pay, even for $20 million. Was it worth it? The question hangs in the air, unanswered, a persistent hum in the quiet of my office. I achieved what I set out to do. I proved Vanessa wrong. I built something from nothing, a testament to my resilience, my determination, my unwavering belief in myself. But at what cost? I look at the reflection in the glass, a stranger staring back at me. The lines around my eyes are deeper, etched by years of stress and sleepless nights. The spark in my eyes, the one that used to burn so brightly with passion and hope, is now dimmed, replaced by a weary resignation. I barely recognize myself. Am I proud of what I've accomplished? Yes. But is it enough? I'm not so sure anymore. There's a gnawing emptiness inside me, a void that success hasn't filled. The money, the power, the validation, it's all hollow. Like a beautifully wrapped gift box containing nothing but air. It's a strange paradox. I have everything I ever wanted, everything Vanessa wanted, and yet I feel empty. I wonder sometimes if I've become a prisoner of my own revenge. If I've allowed the bitterness, the anger, to consume me, to warp me into someone I no longer recognize. Did I win the battle but lose the war? Did I sacrifice my own happiness on the altar of proving her wrong? The thought stings, a bitter pill to swallow. Maybe I should have just moved on. Maybe I should have focused on healing, on forgiving, on letting go of the past. Maybe I should have built a life based on love, on connection, on genuine happiness, instead of a life fueled by anger and the need for revenge. But then I remember that Tuesday morning. The smell of burnt toast, the cold, dismissive tone of her voice, the smug satisfaction in her eyes as she walked out the door, leaving me shattered and alone. Pipe dream. The word echoes in my mind, a fresh wound, and the anger flares again, hot and searing, pushing away the doubt, the regret, the lingering sadness. Maybe I'm not capable of moving on. Maybe I'm too broken, too scarred by the past. Maybe this silent victory, this private vindication, is all I have left. And maybe, just maybe, for now, it has to be enough. But a nagging voice whispers in the back of my mind, a persistent doubt that I can't quite silence. Is this really enough? Is this the life I truly want? Or am I just clinging to the embers of a past that's long gone, afraid to let go, afraid to face the emptiness that might be waiting on the other side? I don't know. I honestly don't know. And that's the most terrifying thought of all. My assistant buzzes me. Ms. Hayes is here for her interview, Mr. E. Vans. Hayes. The name rings a bell, a faint echo from a past I've tried to bury. Send her in, I say, my voice steady, betraying none of the sudden surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins. I lean back in my chair, the leather cool against my skin, and try to steady my breathing. My heart hammers against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the silence of the office. This is it, the moment I've been waiting for, dreading for 5 long years. The door opens and she walks in. Vanessa. It's her, but different, older, harder around the edges. The youthful glow is gone, replaced by a weariness that mirrors my own. The expensive suit she's wearing hangs a little too loosely on her frame. The designer handbag clutched in her hand looks worn. The years haven't been kind to her. A flicker of something that might be satisfaction or maybe just morbid curiosity runs through me. She doesn't recognize me. Not at first. She smiles, a practiced, professional smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. Good afternoon, Mr. Evans, she says, her voice smooth, polished. Thank you for taking the time to see me. I study her, taking in every detail. The subtle lines around her eyes, the slight tremor in her hand as she reaches out to shake mine. The faint scent of her perfume, the same perfume she wore the day she left me, a ghost from the past clinging to her like a shroud. It's a surreal moment, like watching a play unfold, knowing the script but not the ending. My hand is steady as I shake hers, my grip firm, controlled. Ms. Hayes, I say, my voice calm even. It's a pleasure to meet you. I let the words hang in the air, savoring the irony of the situation. She still doesn't recognize me. The beard, the slightly longer hair, the expensive suit, they've effectively masked the man she once knew. The man she discarded, like yesterday's news. We talk about her qualifications, her experience, the usual interview small talk. She's nervous, I can tell. Her eyes dart around the office, taking in the sleek furniture, the modern art on the walls, the breathtaking view of the city. The kind of view she always craved. The kind of office she would have killed to work in back then. I answer her questions, my voice measured, controlled, betraying none of the turmoil raging inside me. I watch her, a detached observer, as she tries to sell herself, to impress me, to convince me that she's the right person for the job. It's almost pathetic. The interview drags on, each minute stretching into an eternity. The air in the office thickens with unspoken tension, the silence punctuated by the rhythmic tapping of my pen against the desk. I can feel her desperation, the underlying anxiety that she's trying so hard to conceal. The irony is almost too much to bear. Here she is, begging me for a job, completely unaware that I'm the man she dumped for being poor, the man whose dreams she dismissed as a pipe dream, the man she traded for a penthouse and a life of supposed luxury, the man she left broken and alone. Finally, I can't take it anymore. The charade has gone on long enough. Ms. Hayes, I say, my voice cutting through the silence, do you remember a man named Chris? Chris Evans? Her eyes widen, a flicker of recognition, then confusion, then dawning horror. The blood drains from her face, leaving her pale and shaken. Chris S? She whispers, her voice barely audible. Is that you? I lean back in my chair, a slow smile spreading across my face. The one and only, I say, my voice laced with a touch of amusement, a hint of the long-suppressed anger finally surfacing. She stares at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. The carefully constructed facade crumbles, revealing the raw vulnerability beneath. But how? She stammers, her voice trembling. I don't understand. It's a long story, I say, my voice still calm, controlled. Perhaps we can discuss it over coffee sometime, but I'm afraid our interview is over. I press a button on my desk. 2 security guards appear, their expressions impassive. Ms. Hayes, I say, my voice now cold hard, I believe you have some unfinished business elsewhere. She looks at me, her eyes wide with panic, pleading. Chris, please, she begs, her voice cracking. Let me explain, it wasn't like that. I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. I watch her, unmoved. The apologies, the pleas, they're meaningless now. Too lit? TLE. Too late. The satisfaction I'd anticipated, the vindication I'd craved for so long, it's there, a dull ache in my chest. But it's mingled with something else. A strange sense of emptiness. A hollow echo of the pain she inflicted, the years of struggle and loneliness, the sacrifices made. It's a Pyrrhic victory, this moment of triumph. I've won, but at what cost? The security guards escort her out, her protests fading as the door closes behind her. The silence returns, heavy and suffocating. I sit there, staring out at the city lights, the same city lights that once held so much promise, so much hope. The city that witnessed my rise from the ashes of her rejection. The city that holds the ghosts of our shared dreams, the shattered fragments of our past. I run a hand through my hair, the exhaustion settling deep in my bones. I've proven her wrong. I've achieved everything she ever wanted, and more, but the victory feels hollow. The emptiness inside me remains, a gaping void that success hasn't filled. I lean back in my chair, the leather cool against my skin, and stare out at the glittering cityscape, the questions swirling in my mind, unanswered, unresolved. Was it worth it? Did I go too far? AITA for letting security remove my ex who dumped me for being poor after she applied for a job at my company without knowing I own it? I don't know. I honestly don't know, and that's the most terrifying thought of all.